The Atlanta Braves have lost yet another starter. When is it gonna stop? Yes, welcome on into a very sad edition of Braves Today, your daily source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning baseball writer and podcaster. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can find all my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're proudly part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. I spoke too soon yesterday. On yesterday's show, which, full disclosure, was recorded Sunday night, I talked about the early indications out of Brave spring training where that starting pitcher Joey Wentz avoided serious injury on Sunday afternoon. He left the game after colliding with Taylor Walls at first base, trying to cover a bunt on the road in Tampa versus the Rays. Port Charlotte, I think, is where they actually play. Well, we got the MRIs back yesterday, and it turns out Joey Wentz has a torn ACL and is going to miss the entire season. And this honestly just really kind of sucks. If you're keeping score at home, Joey Wentz is the third Braves starting pitcher to go on the injured list this spring. When he officially gets placed on the injured list. He's technically not as of yet. This will be the 9th injured list placement of a starting pitcher going back to last season. 9th. Now, that's 8 different guys. Swellenbach got popped twice. But last year, Spencer Strider went on the IL for the hamstring. He came off to start the season, then had the hamstring issue. Ronaldo Lopez, AJ Smith-Shawver, Chris Sale, Spencer Swellenbach, Grant Holmes. This spring, Swellenbach again, Hurston Waldrop, Joey Wentz. And what sucks about that is not just the quantity of guys. 9 injured list placements of starting pitchers is wild. But what really sucks about that, 8 of the 9 are going to end up being on the 60-day IL. Swellenbach and Waldrop not due back until, I think, earliest midseason. Wentz is going to miss the full year. He'll go on there. The only one of those that did not or will not end up being on the 60-day IL is Spencer Strider's absence last year. And he still missed a month with the hamstring issue. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on? Stop this. Is this related to them buying Pennant Park? Is Pennant Park built on an Indian burial mound? Sell that thing. Do we need Dansby to come back and sage the clubhouse and the ballpark again? Do we have to go find one of those Etsy witches to get all of the bad juju off of the pitching staff and off of the roster and the facilities and everything? It's ridiculous. But let's talk about what the team said about it. Let's talk about what the Braves do from here. And let's talk about how to replace Joey Wentz, right? What is the option to replace a lost Joey Wentz at this point in spring? And the first thing I want to talk about is Wentz himself. This is devastating. The media, to my knowledge, has not spoken to him since the injury. That's kind of standard. Walt Weiss talked about this yesterday. And they were really hopeful for what he was going to do. And I think figuring out what you have to replace depends on, are you going with what the projection system said Joey Wentz was going to do? Or are you maybe expecting a little bit more? Because Fangraphs, the Zips projection system over at Fangraphs, which I just realized the PS on Zips is projection system. So you don't say Zips projection system. That's like saying ATM machine. Anyway, Zips had Joey Wentz 90 innings, roughly, 4.54 ERA, 4.08 fielded independent pitching, 12 starts, 33 total appearances. And full disclosure, that's not that amazing, right? It's not something you just want to throw away, right? A FIP of 4 over 90 innings, like that's valuable. You don't want to just throw that away. But at the same time, it's not like losing your top of the rotation ace. I think the flip side of this, though, is a lot of us, not the national stuff, but a lot of us, we know more about what Joey Wentz was working on, right? We know that he spent the offseason conditioning to be a starter to help with the fatigue that he dealt with late last year. We know he made pitch changes, right? He added a two-seamer for a couple reasons. The first one was lefties last year had a line of 295, 380, 446 against him, which is, I don't have to tell you, not good. He also wanted to be able to reliably attack the left side of the plate early in counts so that he didn't fall behind batters. And so, it was entirely reasonable to see a path for Joey Wentz to outperform that ZiPS projection, right? You could easily see how he could have ended up being one of the better swingmen in the league, given the addition of a pitch, working on some other ones, the conditioning, and how good he was in those first 7 appearances before the fatigue and everything started to bother him. The other part of this is just Joey Wentz as a guy, as a person, is well liked in the clubhouse, right? He's somebody who was taken in the first round a decade ago, 2016 first round pick. He's failed to kind of establish himself in the majors like you would expect a first round pick to do. He's been traded. He's been plucked off of waivers 3 different times. And he had kind of finally, hopefully, settled in and was entering a season for really the first time in his career without needing to earn a roster spot. He did not need to compete just to make the roster. Provided he was healthy, it was pretty much assumed that he was going to be here. And a lot of that, again, is because he had a 2.60 ERA in his first 7 appearances with the Braves last year. They saw a lot of things that they liked. And now he's gone. Walt Weiss kind of touched on the emotions behind this. Cool. I don't think anybody expected, even Joey. I don't think he was expecting that news from the MRI. I don't think it felt like it was torn, but it was. Terrible for the kid. Feel terrible for the kid. Pitched well for us last year, really turning some corners in his career last year and throwing the ball good this spring. I mean, I personally, maybe this is the optimist in me. Maybe this is the pitching nerd in me and seeing how those pitches that he added had the potential to help him. I was optimistic about what Joey Wentz can provide or could have provided this year. And again, he wasn't going to be a top of the rotation guy. But I do think you'd have gotten 100 innings out of him. I think a Grant Holmes 2024-esque season was a potential here for Joey Wentz. And reminder, that is something Holmes threw 68 1/3 innings in 2024 in the majors with a 3.56 ERA. He threw another 41 innings in the minors. I think Wentz's 26 could have been better than Holmes's 24. But neither here nor there. It's not going to happen. So how do the Braves replace him? Is it time to sign Lucas Giolito? What options do you have internally? Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at IQ Bar, the exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor of Braves Today. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe instant coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all of the IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe packets. They're all packed with clean, delicious ingredients. They keep you physically and mentally fit with things like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. Tons of flavor combinations. blueberry pomegranate hydration mix, mint chocolate chip protein bars, vanilla spice coffee, even limited edition and seasonal flavors too. And with over 20,000 five-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, say that 5 times fast, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. The Ultimate Sampler Pack has all 3. So right now, IQ Bar is offering Braves Today listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64000. Again, MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Welcome back to a very somber edition of Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby, let's, talking about Joey Wentz and his injuries and what the Braves do now. And I think that the direction a lot of people are going to turn to immediately is, hey, it is time to sign Lucas Giolito. With the caveat of we do not know what his financial asks are, I don't think Lucas Giolito is the automatic savior we all think he is. If the Braves do sign him, there will absolutely, we will be rooting for him. We will be talking about what he's doing well and what he's not doing well. But I do want to point out that when you look at what his year was last year, right? 10-4, 3.14 ERA, and 26 starts, it feels like it should be a no-brainer to sign Lucas Giolito. I think there's a little bit more to that than maybe we are, crediting or understanding. And his performance, his actual performance, the inputs that went into that were not equivalent to a 3.41 ERA, okay? First things first, win-loss record's a terrible way to evaluate pitchers, okay? Yes, he was 10-4. He got over 5 runs of support last year. Over 5 runs of support, which is, pretty good. I don't think any Brave starter got 5 runs of support last year on average, right? But 145 innings, 121 strikeouts, 56 walks. That is a 19.7% strikeout rate and a 9.1% walk rate. What we need to understand is those by themselves are below average numbers. The MLB average last year was a 22.4% strikeout rate. He was almost 3% below league average in striking out batters. The MLB average last year for walks was 8.5%. So he was worse than average on not walking guys. And a lot of those underlying factors end up showing up in his expected stats, his ERA estimators, okay? Again, ERA of 3.14. His expected ERA, 4.73. His fielding into, his expected ERA, 5.06. His fielding independent pitching was a little bit better, a 4.17. But even his fielding independent pitching was a run worse than his actual ERA. His expected ERA was almost 2 runs worse than his actual ERA. The fielding independent pitching being a run lower can be explained by his home run rate. He had an outlier 9.3% home run to fly ball rate when MLB average is like 14.3%. And in every other year of his career, he's been 13, 14, 17 or whatever percent on percentage of fly balls that are home runs. Last year, 9.3, career low. And that's the type of thing that commonly regresses back to the mean. So he kept the ball in the yard at an extraordinarily good rate. That is usually not something that carries over and maintains from year to year. It's kind of like how in Ronald's MVP season, he cut his strikeout rate in half, and then the next year, it was right back to where it was. This is a similar stat. And so, again, good ERA, A lot of the underlying stuff is below average. And when you look at his StatCast card, there's a lot of blue on there because he has this ERA, but every single input that goes into this, other than home run to fly ball rate and a little bit of his strand rate, right? His like leaving guys on base. He got that to like 76%, which is also better than his career averages and all of that. I'm not saying he's going to be bad if you sign him. I'm going to say he's not likely to repeat a 3.41 ERA. He has always, kind of been a high 3s to 4s guy. And then if you look at, and then obviously he went down with Tommy John. So there is a little bit of like understanding here. And here's the thing. Okay. Lucas Giolito, really good ERA, not as good FIP and expected ERA. Bryce Elder had very similar or better underlying numbers than his actual performance last year. Okay, again, Lucas Giolito, 4.17 FIP, 5.06 expected ERA. Bryce Elder, 4.55 FIP, 4.73 expected ERA. The problem is Bryce Elder's actual ERA was 5.30. Lucas Giolito, 19.7% strikeout rate. Bryce Elder, 19.3% strikeout rate. Lucas Giolito, 9.1% walk rate. Bryce Elder, 7.5% walk rate. I'm not saying that Lucas Giolito is Bryce Elder with a mask on, but what I'm saying is from the inputs, Lucas Giolito performed a lot closer to Bryce Elder than to a mid-rotation starter, and that's something you need to be prepared for if the Braves do sign Lucas Giolito. I do also think that the fact that he's still available 3 weeks before opening day should tell you something. This isn't something where Alex Anthopoulos has just missed this very easy and obvious upgrade to his rotation, because nobody has signed Lucas Giolito. Now, there could be reasons for that. We don't know the specific reasons. Is Lucas Giolito unsigned because his contract ask is too much? Is Lucas Giolito unsigned because of all of those things I just mentioned, and teams think that he's not going to be better than their internal options? Or is he unsigned because of injury concerns? Again, he came off of Tommy John. He missed all of 24. He got an internal brace, I think, technically. He missed the postseason last year due to an issue with his flexor tendon in his elbow. Now, supposedly, he is fully healthy. He's not necessarily said anything about, like we saw, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was John Heyman, one of the national reporters, had very clearly talked to his agent and put out a tweet about how, he's throwing, he's healthy, all of this stuff. I do know from talking to some folks, he's been at Cressy Sports Performance, working as recently as mid-February. I know he was there. I don't know if he's still there or not, clearly. But he is the best of the crop. And I honestly don't necessarily think that he is the game-changing talent that a lot of people have made him out to be based on last year's ERA. Again, if you sign him, having another guy, that's going to be useful. But at this point, what you would probably want to do is to have him start off the season on the injured list while he continues building up and getting back into game shape. He wouldn't be ready for opening day. He absolutely would not be ready for opening day. Here's the problem. A lot of the other options in free agency are significantly worse, right? You've got Patrick Corbin, who had a 4.40 ERA and a 4.25 FIP for the Rangers last year. He's your only other person who actually performed at the majors, right? Wade Miley was on a minor league deal with the Reds. He opted out at midseason, went into free agency, and as far as I saw, did not sign with anybody. Marcus Stroman was released by the Yankees last August, I think August 1st, and no one signed him after that, and I believe he's still available now. Outside of that, the whole rest of the list is guys who are currently injured and either won't pitch this year or won't come back until later in the year. Nestor Cortez, Alex Cobb, I believe. Frankie Montas is going to miss the entire season. I think he went down with Tommy John again, and the Mets just like DFA'd him or something. A lot of guys who are injured, and you wouldn't get them for opening day anyway. Like at this point, there's really not an ad you can make right now in free agency that gets you a guy for opening day. And we've seen so many times recently, going back a couple years ago to Jordan Montgomery, when these starting pitchers sign halfway through spring training, most of the time it feels like they really struggled. Even somebody who is, Cy Young caliber, when they sign in spring training, doesn't always do well early. Blake Snell signed with the Giants in 2024, and he debuted on April 8th, and he made a grand total of 6 starts through mid-June at an ERA of 9.51. Now, granted, the field independent pitching was like 4.60 or so, but it took him halfway through the season to be ready to go. He had injuries. He was trying to get ready. Now, down the stretch, he was really good. From July through the end of the year, he had a 1.23 ERA and a 1.77 FIP. But Blake Snell is also a multi-time Cy Young winner. That is not what Lucas Giolito is. Again, there's just not really any good options in free agency. Let's talk about the internal options. What do the Braves do next? We'll discuss that right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Fantrax, the absolute best fantasy baseball platform on the market. It's Fantrax with an X, Fantrax. If you are a commissioner of your league, one, you got to get going. It's already March 10th. But they have just the absolute deepest player pool, the absolute deepest customization options for scoring for your league. We still have, I think, 2 spots available in the Braves Today fantasy league for this season, and we had a ton of options on how to set up the scoring. So if you want to join fantrax.com/Braves today to sign up for a free account, and what I love playing on Fantrax is it pops up notification on your phone if you do not have your lineup optimized for that day. You have a guy in your lineup who's not starting, or somebody who's been scratched, not in the lineup. It pings you to let you know to fix your lineup. Again, Fantrax with an X.com/Braves today to sign up. And if you want to join the Braves Today Fantasy League, the link to sign up is in our Discord. Once you have a Fantrax account, again, fantrax.com/Braves today, go to our Discord to the Fantasy Baseball channel, and there's a link in there to sign up for our league. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about the internal options. Because I just spent a whole segment not intending to bash Lucas Giolito, but just trying to make sure people understand, because trust me, it's already been all over, that while Lucas Giolito is out there, he is not the automatic plug-and-play savior that everybody thinks he is. But maybe a trade happens. At this point in spring, I don't foresee a significant trade. I think this could end up being kind of like the discussion on how to replace Jurickson Profar. There will be veterans who have opt-outs or people who are out of options who will not make their opening day rosters. And that final week of spring, Alex is going to be busy on the phones trying to make waiver claims, cash considerations deal to grab a guy. If you bring in anybody on a trade, I really think it's going to be something like that. And instead, you're going to have to look at your internal options. And it kind of comes down, there's really 3 guys who stand to get a roster spot when they previously were not going to get one. The first guy, and the one who I think is the favorite, unlike some other Braves pundits and all of that, is José Suarez. And he threw to a 186 ERA in 19 1/3 innings with the Braves last year. He is also left-handed, just like Joey Wentz, so he would save, like he would preserve the whole lefty nature of that swingman. But last year he did make a start for the Braves. So when he wasn't in Atlanta, when he was in Gwinnett, I think they had him make like 8 starts in Gwinnett. And he has 62 starts in his career. He started off with the Angels as a starter before they moved him to relief. In that spot start last year against Washington on the road late in the year, he pitched 7 innings, allowed 2 runs on 6 hits and 2 walks, and struck out 9. So if he can keep that same energy to a couple spot starts, he could be a guy who starts off in your pen and is a spot starter for you, like Joey Wentz was going to be the first couple times through the order, right? Again, 13 games in 13 days to open the season. They indicated they wanted Joey Wentz to make a few starts. If you decide to do that same thing with José Suarez, which is not a guarantee, but if you decide, I can see why José Suarez, why you could assume that he could figure it out and that it could work out for you. It's a 5-pitch mix for José Suarez. Now, not everybody sees everything. He was throwing last year 93-ish mile-an-hour fastball, a 4-seamer. Righties saw that and a changeup about equally. He paired in a slider, about 14% usage, and occasional curveballs. Lefties got everything. The fastball, then the slider, then the sinker, which, again, sinker pitches like that run to the arm side are best against same-handed batters. So that's why lefties throw a lot of sinkers to fellow lefties and things like that. And then the changeup and the curveball was like his least used pitch against lefties. I do think there is, provided that he's ready to go, I do think there is something to the idea of you give him that job. He's out of options, so you cannot just leave him off the roster and be guaranteed to keep him in the organization. By contrast, his kind of main competitor, and I think who Mark Bowman said is probably the beneficiary here, Martín Pérez. Martín Pérez is a veteran. He's in camp as a non-roster invitee, and we've only seen him once in spring. If I remember right, I think he had 5 innings. No, we've seen him twice now. He's thrown 5 innings with like 1 run on 3 hits, struck out 3 or something like that, walked 1, gave up a bomb. He does have a 5-pitch mix. He throws all of them to both sides of the plate. Like 279 career starts, 1,630 innings in his career. He is not overpowering on stuff, but he's got experience. I think the big thing here, if you're approaching this from how to maximize depth, which a lot of the decisions Alex Anthopoulos has made have been with that in mind, the thing to do probably is to start Martín Pérez in the minors. And the reason I say that, José Suarez, again, has no options. If you don't have him on the opening day roster, you have to DFA, waive him, whatever, and you probably lose him. We saw him claimed off of waivers over the winter when they tried to sneak him through to get the roster spot. Martín Pérez is on a minor league deal, and I went and checked with the Players Association. He's not classified as an XXB free agent, meaning he doesn't automatically have an opt-out in his contract. Again, if you finish the previous season in the majors or on the 60-day IL, and then you sign a minor league deal, provided that you have 6 years of service time, which he more than does, you get automatic opt-outs in your minor league deal. You get 5 days before opening day, you get May 1st, you get June 1st. And if you can give the team written notice that you are going to opt out on that date, they in turn either have to put you on the 26-man roster or exercise the opt-out and you become a free agent. And he does not automatically have one. Now, Martín Pérez could have negotiated an opt-out in that deal. We don't know. Minor league deals commonly do not get those contract details reported. The Associated Press is really good about reporting those. I checked with somebody who works over there. They don't have anything in their database. So we don't know if Martín Pérez can opt out or not. So as of now, I'm going to assume he doesn't have an opt-out. So the thing that prioritizes depth here is to start José Suarez in the majors, leave Martín Pérez in the minors, with the understanding that if you choose to move on from José Suarez, it's not the end of the world, right? He's been DFA'd multiple times in his career. He's been put on waivers multiple times in his career. If this makes sense, he's kind of the most disposable, simply because, I mean, it's happened. The Braves waived him this offseason. We DFA'd him last season. We've moved on from him before. We can do it again. But if you pick Martín Pérez over him, then you're already down to just one option. If you pick José Suarez over Martín Pérez, you have two options for your long man, a swing starter, whatever it might be, working out of your pen. There is another option here. And it sounds really exciting, but I don't know if we should do it. And it's JR Ritchie. JR Ritchie has looked fantastic. As of time of recording, it's about 9:15 a.m. on Tuesday. He is expected to be today's starter for spring training. He's looked really impressive. I think, the fat four-seamer up in the high 90s, 6-pitch mix, got it better from the first out into the second as far as generating whiffs and all of that. At the same time, one, he's not on the 40-man roster. You can easily make a 40-man spot. You got so many dudes who can go on the 60-day IL to make a 40-man spot. I don't think Hurston Waldrop is yet. Like, right there's your spot. AJ Smith-Shawver, there's your spot. Like, there's plenty of spots you can make. But he's not on the 40-man roster, which means you haven't started his service clock and you haven't started using his options. I personally think that JR Ritchie has the tools to get to the majors and acclimate quickly enough to not have to go back down. We saw Schwellenbach do that in 24. It took him 5 or 6 starts to figure out that second time through the order, how to, that 4th, 5th inning kind of issues that he had. It took him 5 or 6 starts, but he did it. I think Ritchie can also be that guy. But if you grab him and you put him on the roster on opening day, and you don't have the runway, if you use him as a long man and a 6th starter, you either have to choose to go ahead and pop that first option by sending him down, or you have to take Bryce Elder and say, hey, we're going to put you in a role you've never been in before, and we're going to stick you in the pen. And I'm not saying you can't do that. If Ritchie's pitching that well, and Elder is being Bryce Elder, where he can sometimes be a liability, then you can do that. But if the plan is not to give JR Ritchie the opportunity to keep a roster spot, and you're just using him for the first 2 or 3 weeks before sending him down, there's no point in, one, sacrificing José Suarez's ability to just give you innings, and 2, starting his service clock for 2 spot starts. It's not worth it. And again, if you want to work out how to keep Ritchie up and let him be in the rotation all year, fine, go ahead. That would put him eligible for a PPI pick if he wins Rookie of the Year. I'm okay with that. But you have to actually commit to it. And it feels like the way the Braves have done this, they're not going to commit to it. They're not going to give a prospect a rotation spot on opening day. They indicated they weren't going to do it with Hurston Waldrop, and he's technically not even a prospect and has major league time. A lot of the guys they've called up have not been for opening day. They called up AJ Smith-Shawver in, I think it was May. They called up Spencer Schwellenbach mid-season. Like, they don't call these guys up for opening day. So you only make it JR Ritchie if he has a legitimate chance to stick in the rotation. And if not, let him go to Gwinnett, let him start once a week, continue to polish so that when you need him, one, he's ready to come up and stay, And 2, you don't have to pop his first option by sending him back down, because we've been pretty bad about popping options early. When we optioned Didier Fuentes to AA, I'm sorry, not AA. When we optioned Didier Fuentes to the minors, he will be on his second option year. He is 20 years old, and he'll already be in his second option year. AJ Smith-Shawver, the end of the season, he's going to come back. I don't think he's back in midseason. The end of the season, he's going to come back. If he gets to the point where you have to option him down, he will be 23 years old and have used his final option year. Preserve the option if you can. I want the best possible rotation. Yes. I'm not saying sacrifice quality, but I'm saying there's a balance here. And if you're not going to give JR Ritchie a legitimate chance to be the dude all year, don't start a service clock just to get 2 starts out of him. This has been Braves Today for Tuesday, March 10th. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, 5-star review would be great. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the shorts with bad news and all of that other stuff. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.